Have you ever stopped to think about what your code is actually saying? I don't just mean the words it puts on a screen, but the code itself. Most HTML just tells a browser how to display something. But what if it can also explain what that something is? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into, how to write code that truly speaks using semantic HTML. So I want you to think about the code you write every day. Does it have its own meaning? Or is it really just a bunch of boxes styled to look right, but totally silent about what they're for? This isn't just some philosophical thing. It's right at the heart of building a better, more intelligent web. We've all seen this, right? And hey, we've probably all written it. This tangled mess of divs inside of divs with a few spans thrown in for good measure. At a glance, this tells us absolutely nothing. Is it a header, an article, a button? Who knows? It's a classic case of what developers call divitis, and it's a quiet little problem that's all over the web. Okay, so why does this even matter? I mean, if the page looks right to the user, who cares what the code looks like underneath? Well, it turns out a lot of things care. Browsers, search engines, and especially users with disabilities care a whole lot. The importance of writing semantic code really comes down to three crucial pillars. This really represents a fundamental shift in how we think about our code. Non-semantic code is all about presentation. It only tells a browser how something should look. But semantic code, that describes what the content actually is. This isn't just some passing trend. It's about baking context and meaning right into the structure of the page for both people and machines to understand. First up, and you could argue this is the most important pillar, is accessibility. For someone using a screen reader, a non-semantic page is like a book with no chapters, no paragraphs, no page numbers, just a giant, overwhelming wall of text. But when you use tags like header or article, they act like signposts. They let users jump between sections and actually understand the layout. The browser even builds this thing called an Accessibility Object Model, or AOM, which is kind of like a special, semantic-only version of the page made just for those assistive tools. Next up, let's talk about SEO. Search engines like Google are working around the clock trying to understand what your pages are about. When you use semantic tags, you're not making them guess. You're basically handing them a map saying, hey, this is my main headline, this part here is the navigation, and this is a self-contained article. That kind of clarity helps them index your site way more accurately, which can lead to better rankings and even those cool rich snippets you see in search results. And the third pillar? Well, this one is a gift to your future self and to anyone else who ever has to work on your code. It's maintainability. I mean, think about it. Which is easier to understand when you come back to a project 6 months later? A dozen nested divs or a clean structure of header, main, and footer? Semantic code is basically self-documenting. It just makes working in teams smoother and debugging so much less painful. Okay, so hopefully by now you're sold on the why. Now let's get into the what and the how. It's time to pop open the Semantic Toolkit and really learn how to speak the browser's native language. So what is semantic HTML, really? At its core, it's the practice of using tags that describe their own meaning. It's all about choosing the right element for the right job, so you're communicating purpose and structure to everyone and everything that interacts with your page. An article tag, for example, isn't just a box. It's a clear statement that everything inside it is a complete, standalone piece of content. Now take a look at this. This layout isn't just a random suggestion. It's really the blueprint for a meaningful web page. You can think of this as the standard anatomy of a modern site. You've got your header up top, your main content in the middle, navigation, and a footer at the bottom. Every part has a distinct name and a clear purpose. And building on that blueprint, each of these tags has a very specific job. Your header is for your intro stuff, the logo, the site title. The nav tag is specifically for your main navigation links. Main is the star of the show. It wraps the unique, primary content of that specific page. An article is a self-contained unit, like one blog post. And finally, the footer handles all that fine print at the bottom, like copyright notices or contact info. All right, now that we know the right way to build things, let's have a little fun and talk about the wrong way. It's so easy to fall into bad habits, so let's call out a few common semantic sins, and more importantly, figure out how to fix them. Here's a huge one, using heading tags just to make text bigger or bolder. An H1 tag isn't just for big text. It is the main title of your entire document. Using it for anything else is, well, it's like putting a massive, flashing neon sign on a tiny side street while the main highway gets a little post-it note. You're totally misleading everyone about what's important on the page. So the fix is super simple but really powerful. Use your headings to create a logical, nested outline of your document. Start with one H1, then use H2 for your main sections, then H3 for subsections inside those, and so on. And for anything that has to do with looks, size, color, font, boldness, that is a job for CSS, and only CSS. Okay, next up is a sin that's just awful for both accessibility and SEO. Vague, meaningless link text. Just imagine you're using a screen reader, and you're tabbing through a page to get a sense of the links. All you hear is, click here, read more, click here. It's completely useless without all the surrounding words, right? The solution here is to write link text that actually describes where you're going. So instead of a generic click here, you'd write something like read our full 2024 annual report. Instead of read more, you try learn about our company's history. The link text should always make sense completely on its own. So we've covered the fundamentals, but semantic HTML is really just the beginning. It's the foundation, the launchpad, that lets us build an even smarter, more machine-readable web. So let's take this to the next level. Welcome to the world of microdata and schema.org. Okay, think of this as a super-powered vocabulary that you can add on top of your already semantic HTML. It lets you get even more specific, telling search engines that, hey, this number here isn't just a number. It's a movie rating, or this text is Arecity's cooking time, or this is the street address of a business. And here's what that looks like in practice. See how we've wrapped a block of code with item scope? That's us saying, hey, everything inside here is about one single thing. Then the item type attribute specifies what kind of thing it is, in this case, a movie, according to the dictionary at schema.org, and then inside we use item property, to label the individual pieces. So this code is now explicitly stating that this text is the director. We're adding these rich layers of machine-readable meaning, and this is what powers all those incredibly useful search results we love to see. And that brings us right back to our final thought. As you go back to your editor and your projects, I want you to ask yourself this question. Is your code just giving the browser instructions on what to draw, or is it actually speaking? Is it building a web that's more meaningful, more accessible, and ultimately more intelligent for everyone? The choice is literally in your hands.